The Galactic Casino orbited the neutral moon of Kira's 7 like a predator circling wounded prey. Its crystalline spires caught the light of 3 distant suns, refracting it into impossible colors that didn't exist in human visual spectrum. Each spire housed a different form of vice, a different way for the galaxy's citizens to throw away their wealth in pursuit of that most dangerous of chemicals, hope. Ambassador David Chen stood at the viewport of the shuttle, watching the casino grow larger as they approached. His reflection stared back at him, a man in his late 40s, weathered by too many diplomatic failures, too many colony ships lost to pirates, too many condolence letters signed to families he'd never meet. The dark circles under his eyes told the story of 3 years spent preparing for this moment. Final approach in 5 minutes, the shuttle's VI announced in its pleasant, artificial voice. Reminder, the Galactic Casino operates under Kira's neutrality accords. All weapons, unauthorized technology, and biological agents must be declared and surrendered before entry. Chen patted his empty pockets. He carried nothing but the clothes on his back, a standard datapad with his credentials, and 10 credits, the minimum buy-in for the lowest stakes tables. Everything else he needed was already inside his head, woven into the neural pathways he'd spent 3 years rewiring. His comm chirped. General Okonkwo's face appeared on his datapad, her expression stern. Chen, tell me you're not actually doing this. I'm doing this. We have actual military operations planned, surgical strikes against K'thex positions. We don't need you playing games in some alien casino. Your surgical strikes will kill their soldiers, Chen said quietly. This will kill their funding. Their entire financial pipeline runs through that casino's laundering operation. Cut it off and their proxy war in human space collapses. If it works, if you're right about the mathematics, if you don't get yourself killed. Okonkwo leaned forward. 17 humans have tried to beat that casino, Chen, 17. All of them were mathematical prodigies, probability experts, the best we had. They all failed. They were thinking like computers, Chen said. I'm thinking like a human. That better means something more than just cockiness. It does. Chen watched the casino fill his viewport, each spire now visible in detail, architectural impossibilities that shifted and changed, quantum-locked structures that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Beautiful, dangerous. The galaxy thinks in ones and zeros, general. They think in logic, but humans. We evolved to chase prey across savannas for days, tracking subtle changes in footprints, reading patterns in disturbed grass. Our brains do millions of microcalculations we're not even conscious of. We see faces in clouds, patterns in chaos. We feel mathematics. Feeling math won't help you when their security throws you out an airlock. Then I'll die doing something that matters. Chen smiled without humor. Better than dying behind a desk signing more condolence letters. Okonkwo was quiet for a moment. 3 years ago you lost your daughter in the Proxima raid. I know how long it's been. I'm just saying. I understand why you volunteered for this, but don't throw your life away for revenge, Chen. That's not what Sarah would have wanted. This isn't revenge, Chen said, though they both knew it was at least partially a lie. This is mathematics. Now if you'll excuse me, General, I have a casino to break. He cut the connection before she could respond. Part 2, the casino. The docking bay smelled wrong, not bad, just wrong. Every species in the galaxy had different olfactory preferences, and the casino's atmospheric processors blended them all into a cocktail that human noses found unsettling. Chen's stomach churned as he made his way through customs. The Vexari customs officer regarded him with compound eyes that reflected his image 1,000 times over, insectoid chitinous with mandibles that clicked and scraped as it processed his credentials. Purpose of visit, gambling, assets to declare, 10 credits. The mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Another human optimist. You are the 18th of your kind to enter these halls with dreams of victory. I'm aware. The previous 17 all left with nothing. Several left with less than nothing, having borrowed against future earnings that they will spend decades repaying. The officer's antennae twitched. Why do humans persist in this futility? Because we're stubborn, Chen said. Are we done here? Scan complete. You carry no contraband, no weapons, no unauthorized technology. You are cleared for entry. The officer waved a chitinous appendage toward the massive doors that led into the casino proper. Good fortune, human, you will need it. The doors opened, and Chen stepped into controlled chaos. The main floor of the Galactic Casino stretched out before him like a fever dream. Crystalline structures that defied Euclidean geometry housed gaming tables where species from across 3 spiral arms wagered their futures. The air thrummed with electromagnetic energy, subsonic rumbles, hypersonic squeals. Each species preferred gaming sounds, creating a symphony of greed. To his left, towering K'thex threw dice made of collapsed neutron star material, the impacts reverberating through the deck plating. To his right, gaseous Zephyrians swirled around fortune wheels that spun through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ahead, in the high-stakes area marked by shifted lighting and a palpable sense of predatory attention, he could see the Void Runner tables. That was his destination, but not yet. Chen made his way to the lowest stakes area, where desperate creatures wagered their last credits on simple games of chance. He found a probability cascade machine, essentially a glorified coin flip with extra steps, and fed in 2 of his 10 credits. He won, fed in 4 credits, won again. The machine's algorithm was crude, designed to be just random enough to seem fair while maintaining a steady house edge. But Chen could feel the pattern underneath the randomness, the subtle weight distribution, the quantum fluctuations that weren't quite as random as they pretended to be. 30 minutes later, he had 50 credits. "You're lucky," a voice said beside him. Chen turned to find a Frax watching him, bipedal, vaguely reptilian, with cybernetic implants covering the left side of his skull. The implants pulsed with soft blue light, indicating active neural processing. "Lucky enough," Chen agreed. "I am Crixnell, Senior Security Officer." The Frax's eyes narrowed. "We watch all newcomers, especially humans. Your species has a reputation for creativity. I'm not cheating. No, our systems would detect that immediately. You're simply winning, for now." Crixnell tilted his head. "But winning at probability cascades means nothing. Children win at probability cascades. The question is whether you'll be foolish enough to take those credits to the real tables." "I plan to. Then I will be watching." Crixnell's cybernetics pulsed brighter, with great interest. Part 3, the game. Chen spent 6 hours working his way up through the casino's hierarchy. 50 credits became 200 at the stellar roulette tables, where he felt the gravitational microfluctuations that influenced the ball's final position. 200 became 800 at the quantum cards, where he learned to sense the probability waves before they collapsed. Other players started noticing. A Zephyrian's gaseous form swirled near him, its translated voice curious. "You possess unusual fortune, human." "Unusual preparation," Chen corrected. By the time he approached the Void Runner tables, he had 5,000 credits and a small crowd of curious onlookers. The Void Runner area was different from the rest of the casino, quieter, darker, with a weight to the air that suggested serious money changed hands here. The tables themselves seemed to absorb light, their surfaces a matte black that hurt to look at directly. The dealer at the nearest table was a biomechanical hybrid, part organic, part machine, all precision. Its optical sensors tracked Chen's approach with mechanical dispassion. "Minimum buy-in 1,000 credits, it announced in a synthesized voice. Chen placed half his stake on the table. Void Runner was, superficially, similar to human blackjack. Players bet on achieving a target numerical value through drawn cards, but the similarities ended there. The deck existed in 8 dimensions, with cards possessing properties that shifted based on quantum observation, probability matrices that cascaded through nested decision trees, and values that could be positive, negative, imaginary, or undefined depending on what had been played before. The dealer explained none of this. Players were expected to know the rules. The first hand Chen folded immediately. He wasn't here to win yet, he was here to observe, to feel the pattern. The dealer pulled cards from the 8-dimensional deck with mechanical precision, each draw collapsing probability waves in a cascade of quantum determinations. Chen watched, but more importantly, he felt. 3 years ago, he begun training with Dr. Sarah Kim, a neuroscientist specializing in synesthesia and savant abilities. She taught him that the human brain's pattern recognition capabilities went far beyond conscious mathematics. The same neural processes that let baseball players predict a pitch's location in milliseconds, that let jazz musicians improvise complex harmonies without thought, that let persistence hunters track prey across changing terrain, those could be trained, refined, redirected. He'd spent months learning to assign non-mathematical qualities to mathematical concepts. The number 8 wasn't just 8, it was a low hum, a dark blue, a smooth texture. Probability matrices weren't equations, they were melodies, rhythms, patterns he could sense the way a musician senses the next note in a song. Second hand, he bet conservatively, won a small pot. The crowd watching him had grown larger. Third hand, he felt the rhythm of the deck shift, sensed the quantum probabilities align in a pattern he recognized, bet heavily. One. Fourth hand, the pattern was chaos, unpredictable, folded immediately. Fifth hand, perfect, doubled down, one big. By the 10th hand, he'd turned his 5,000 credits into 25,000, and the pit boss had appeared. The Vexari stood across the table, mandibles clicking softly, compound eyes reflecting the void-black surface of the gaming table 1,000 times over. You're doing very well, human. Thank you. Suspiciously well. I'm not cheating. Our systems confirm this. No external technology, no quantum manipulation, no probability alteration. You are simply winning. The pit boss's antennae twitched. How? Chen smiled. Practice, practice. The word emerged like a hiss. 17 humans have come before you, all practiced, all failed. They practiced the wrong things. The pit boss studied him for a long moment. Continue then, let us see how long your practice sustains you. Part 4, The Mathematics of Chaos, Hour 12. Chen had accumulated 200,000 credits. The crowd watching him had evolved from curious to amazed to suspicious. Other players had started mimicking his betting patterns, trying to ride his success. The casino's ambient electromagnetic field had shifted, taking on a tense quality that made his teeth ache. Crixnell, the Frack's security officer, stood in the observation gallery above the main floor, studying holographic displays that showed every aspect of Chen's biometrics, every quantum fluctuation at his table, every possible angle of technological cheating. Nothing, his assistant reported, a young Mindari whose precognitive abilities let her sense probability manipulation before it happened. He's clean. Then how? Crixnell's cybernetics pulsed faster, processing vast amounts of data. The mathematics involved in Void Runner require computational matrices that even Class 7 AIs struggle with. No biological brain should be able to process them in real time. Perhaps he's not processing them, the Mindari suggested, not like a computer would. Explain. She gestured to the biometric displays. Look at his neural activity. It's not concentrated in the prefrontal cortex where logical reasoning occurs. It's spread across multiple regions: auditory processing, visual cortex, emotional centers, even motor control. He's not calculating, he's experiencing. Crixnell zoomed in on the neural scans. She was right. Chen's brain activity looked more like someone listening to music or watching a dance than someone solving equations. This shouldn't be possible. Humans are strange, the Mindari said quietly. They evolved on a death world, you know, persistence predators. They killed prey by chasing them until the prey died of exhaustion. Do you understand how much environmental calculation that requires? Reading tracks, predicting behavior, adjusting for terrain changes, all while maintaining pursuit for hours or days. Their brains evolved to do millions of microcalculations unconsciously. But Void Runner isn't tracking prey, isn't it? She turned to him. To them, maybe all pattern recognition is the same. Numbers, footprints, musical notes, just different types of patterns, and humans see patterns everywhere. In clouds, in static, in random noise. It's their survival instinct. Down on the floor, Chen bet everything on a single hand and won. The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and shocked silence. Crixnell made a decision: bring in the Grandmaster. Part 5, the Grandmaster, Hour 18. Chen had nearly 1 million credits in front of him and his body was screaming for rest. Every muscle ached, his eyes burned. The 8-dimensional patterns he'd been feeling for almost a day straight had started bleeding into his peripheral vision, mathematical phantasms that danced at the edge of perception. But he couldn't stop now, not when he was so close. The crowd parted as a new figure approached the table. Chen looked up and felt a chill run down his spine. The Grandmaster was a Tellurian, a species renowned for their mathematical prowess, their brains structured in ways that made them natural computational engines. This one wore traditional robes that shimmered with embedded calculations, equations flowing across the fabric like living things. Its eyes, all 4 of them, regarded Chen with calm assessment. I am Zulkith, it said in a voice like rustling paper. I have been the undefeated Void Runner champion for 47 cycles. I'm Chen, I know who you are, Ambassador, I know why you're here. Zulkith settled into the chair across from Chen. The pit boss believes you are somehow cheating, though he cannot determine how. I believe differently. I believe you have discovered something interesting. And what's that? That mathematics is not merely logical, that it can be felt, experienced, intuited. Zulkith's robes rippled with new equations. My species understands this. We do not merely calculate, we perceive mathematical truth as a sense, the way you perceive color or sound. But humans are not supposed to be capable of this. Humans are full of surprises. Indeed, Zulkith gestured to the dealer. Shall we test the limits of your surprise? The dealer shuffled the 8-dimensional deck, quantum probabilities cascading like waterfalls. Chen felt his exhaustion, felt the way his mind was starting to fray at the edges from hours of sustained pattern recognition. But he also felt something else, curiosity. What were the limits of what he'd learned? Could he match a species that naturally perceived mathematical truth? The first hand began. Zulkith played with absolute precision, each decision optimal according to probability theory. Chen played by feel, by intuition, by the rhythm he sensed in the chaos. They matched each other bet for bet, second hand, third, fourth. The crowd had gone completely silent, watching two completely different approaches to the same problem clash at the highest level. You're tiring, Zulkith observed during the seventh hand. Your pattern recognition is degrading. I can see it in your betting. Maybe. There is no maybe. Mathematics is absolute. You have perhaps 3 more hands before your advantage disappears entirely. Zulkith's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. But you have impressed me, human. You have proven that biological intuition can, briefly, match logical certainty. That is worth acknowledging. 8th hand. Chen felt the pattern slip slightly, his exhausted mind struggling to maintain the synesthetic clarity he'd sustained for hours. He bet conservatively and lost for the first time in 6 hours. 9th hand. The pattern was mud, unclear. He folded. 10th hand. Zulkith studied him across the table. This is where you fail, Ambassador Chen. This is where biology surrenders to mathematics. You cannot maintain this level of performance indefinitely. No human can. Chen looked at his stack of chips. 900,000 credits, more than enough for what he needed. But something in Zulkith's calm certainty irritated him, pushed against the grief and anger he'd been carrying for 3 years. You're right, Chen said. No human can maintain this level of performance indefinitely. He pushed his entire stack forward, but we don't need to. We only need to maintain it long enough. Zulkith's robes shimmered with rapid calculations. You're going all in. I am. On a hand where your pattern recognition is compromised, your judgment clouded by exhaustion, your advantage minimal at best. Zulkith's 4 eyes blinked again. This is not logical. No, Chen agreed. It's human. The dealer dealt the cards. Chen felt through his exhaustion, pushed past his physical limitations, accessed something deeper than pattern recognition. The raw stubbornness that had let his ancestors chase prey for days, the refusal to quit that had driven humanity from caves to stars. The math was chaos, the probabilities were murky. Every logical decision tree said to fold, but Chen had spent 3 years learning to feel numbers, and beneath the chaos he felt something, not certainty, not pattern, just a hunch, the same kind of irrational intuition that had guided humans through 10,000 generations of survival. He went all in. Zulkith studied him for a long moment, then matched the bet. The dealer revealed the cards. Chen won. The crowd erupted. Zulkith sat perfectly still, robes blazing with calculations, trying to understand what had just happened. Finally, the Tellurian spoke. That was not optimal play. No. You should have lost, probably, yet you won. Zulkith rose from the table. You have taught me something today, Ambassador Chen. Mathematics is not always absolute. Sometimes irrationality triumphs over logic. Sometimes the improbable becomes actual. The Tellurian bowed slightly. Your species is more dangerous than we understood. As Zulkith walked away, Chen cashed out 1.8 million credits, enough to trigger exactly the kind of attention he'd been hoping for. Part 6, The Revelation. The pit boss appeared within minutes, flanked by Crixnell and 2 security personnel Chen didn't recognize. The crowd scattered, sensing trouble. Ambassador Chen, the Vexari said, mandibles clicking rapidly, you have won an extraordinary amount of money. I have, using no illegal methods. Correct, this is problematic for you, yes. Chen leaned back in his chair, every muscle screaming. Because now you have to explain to your investors how a single human, using no technology and no cheating, won nearly 2 million credits from your highest stakes tables. The pit boss's antennae twitched violently. You will be banned, you and all humans. We are within our rights. You are, Chen agreed, but then you'll have to explain why. Why ban an entire species for winning legitimately? And when you try to explain the method that humans can intuit 8-dimensional probability matrices through trained synesthetic pattern recognition, other humans will hear about it. Some of them will learn. Within a year, there will be 10,000 humans who can do what I do. Maybe not as well, but well enough, and you can't ban us all without causing a diplomatic incident. Then we will change the games. You could, but how many casino networks operate in neutral space? 30, 40. How many of them use similar quantum probability systems? Once the method is published, once other humans replicate it, your entire industry has a problem. Chen smiled without humor. The house always wins, except now maybe it doesn't. Crixnell stepped forward, his cybernetics pulsing. What do you really want, human? I want you to audit yourselves. Silence. I want you to look at your financial records. I want you to examine your largest depositors, your most frequent high-stakes players, your shadow accounts. I want you to follow the money. The pit boss's mandibles went still. Why would we do this? Because I'm about to trigger an investigation anyway. This win is too big, too public, too unusual. Your investors will demand an audit to ensure I wasn't cheating, that your systems aren't compromised. And when they audit you, really audit you, they're going to find something interesting. Chen met the Vexari's compound eyes. They're going to find the K'thex Consortium. The name hung in the air like poison. You launder money for them, Chen continued. For a criminal syndicate that runs proxy wars, funds piracy, destabilizes frontier worlds, you think you're neutral. You're washing blood money and calling it entertainment. You cannot prove this, the pit boss hissed. I don't need to prove it to everyone, just to your investors, and the audit that's coming will do that for me. Chen stood, collecting his credit chips. I'm cashing out. All of it, and when the records show a 2 million credit loss to a single player using completely legitimate methods, your investors are going to look very, very closely at where your real money comes from. Crixnell's eyes narrowed. This was never about gambling. No, Chen agreed. It was about exposure, about shining light on the infrastructure that funds our enemies, about collapsing their financial pipeline. One casino, the pit boss said. You will collapse one casino. The consortium operates across dozens of networks. One is a start. And once the method is published, once other humans learn to feel the math, those other networks will face the same problem. Chen headed toward the exit. The house always wins, not anymore, not against us. Part 7, the cost. Chen made it 3 steps before his legs gave out. He crashed to the floor, his exhausted body finally surrendering. Distantly, he felt hands lifting him, heard voices shouting for medical assistance. The 8-dimensional patterns he'd been perceiving for 20 hours straight were burned into his vision like afterimages, mathematical phantoms that wouldn't fade. He woke in the casino's medical bay, tubes and sensors attached to his body. A medical AI informed him in pleasant tones that he'd suffered severe neurological exhaustion, stress-induced cardiac arrhythmia, and acute dehydration. Recommended recovery time 3 weeks. You're an idiot, General Okonkwo said from beside his bed. Her holographic projection flickered slightly, indicating she was transmitting from light years away. A successful idiot, but still an idiot. Did it work? The audit's already started. The casino's investors are very interested in how a single human could beat their supposedly unbeatable system. They're finding all sorts of interesting discrepancies. Okonkwo's expression softened slightly. You did it, Chen. The K'thex financial network is collapsing. Their proxy operations are already pulling back, trying to secure emergency funding. You bought us 2, maybe 3 years. Good. But the cost, Chen, our medical scans show you've done permanent damage to your neural pathways. The sustained synesthetic processing, the hours of pattern recognition, you've literally burned out parts of your brain. I know, you'll never be able to do what you did again. The very capabilities you trained for 3 years are destroyed. Chen smiled weakly. I only needed to do it once. Okonkwo was quiet for a moment. Sarah would be proud and furious, probably in equal measure. She always was practical. The press is calling you a hero, the first human to break a galactic casino. Intelligence agencies across human space want to study your methods. We're already setting up the Probability Institute you proposed, training centers where we'll teach others to perceive mathematics the way you did. Will it work? Early tests are promising. Not everyone can learn it, but enough can. Maybe 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500 if we start them young. Okonkwo leaned forward. You've given us a weapon, Chen, a way to beat systems that were supposed to be unbeatable. Do you understand how valuable that is? I understand. Then rest, recover. Let others carry the weight for a while. She smiled. You've earned it. The hologram faded. Chen lay in the medical bed, feeling the ghost patterns still dancing at the edges of his perception. Permanent damage, the doctors said. Neural pathways burned out by sustained synesthetic processing that no human brain was meant to handle. but he'd done it, for Sarah, for all the others lost to K'thex-funded pirates, for humanity's future. The house always wins, except when humans decide it doesn't. Epilogue, 3 years later. The Human Probability Institute occupied a converted asteroid in the Sol system, its facilities state-of-the-art, its students recruited from across human space. Young men and women who showed aptitude for synesthetic thinking, for pattern recognition, for feeling mathematics like music. David Chen, no longer an ambassador, walked through the training halls. His cane clicked against the floor, another reminder of what his gamble had cost him. The neurological damage had been more severe than initially assessed. He'd never gamble again, could barely calculate a restaurant tip without written assistance. But he could teach, again, he told the student before him, a teenage girl from Mars colony who could see numbers as colors. Feel the pattern, don't calculate it, sense it, like you're predicting where a ball will bounce. She closed her eyes, let the probability matrices wash over her, and made her choice. Correct, good, but faster. In a real casino, you have seconds, not minutes. Yes, director. They'd given him that title when the institute opened, despite his protests, said it was appropriate. Said he'd earned it, maybe he had, his comm chimed. General Okonkwo now retired herself. Chen, thought you want to know, the last K'thex proxy cell in our space just surrendered. Their funding completely dried up, the war's over. How many did we lose in the end? Too many. But fewer than we would have if you hadn't cut off their money. A pause. Sarah's grave still gets fresh flowers every week. I made sure of it. Thank you. Stop thanking me. You're the one who ended it. Okonkwo's image smiled. Get back to teaching. Make sure the next generation is ready, because the galaxy's full of houses that think they always win. Chen returned to his student, watched her work through probability matrices that most species couldn't begin to comprehend, sensing patterns in chaos that shouldn't be perceivable. Human pattern recognition, refined and weaponized, turned against systems designed to be unbeatable. The house always wins, they said. They were wrong, and now everyone knew it. In the following decade, 17 more galactic casinos would face similar collapses as trained human probability specialists learned to feel their supposedly unbeatable systems. The galaxy's underground economy, which had operated with impunity for centuries, found itself facing an enemy it couldn't simply outthink or outmuscle. By the time the last casino network fell, humanity had established itself as the species you didn't gamble against, not because they were smarter, but because they thought differently. Because they'd evolved chasing prey across savannas, learning to see patterns in chaos, and they'd turned that ancient survival instinct into a weapon. The house always wins, not against them, never against them.